It halted in the Galerie de Diane. The Emperor, with the Empress and the family, retired to his salon. In her bedchamber, the Empress was relieved of the mantle and the crown, which were given back to the Grand Chamberlain to be returned to Notre Dame. With the same ceremonies as on the previous evening, their Majesties showed themselves on the balcony of the Salle de Maréchal and witnessed the march past of the Corps de la Garde, which acclaimed the sovereigns by presenting arms. It must not be supposed that this concluded the proceedings. The fêtes were so organized that there was not a moment for dinner. Réunion de Saint-Jean d'Angély provided a very recherché cold dinner in the Salle de la Section de l'Intérieur. The Corps diplomatique roamed about the palace in search of a meal. Monsieur Regnault invited the ambassador of Austria. The dinner was very gay, very animated. Great fun was made of the Russians who could not find places. Monsieur de Metternich, happy and elated, talked and cracked jokes. A crowd had collected beneath the windows. Monsieur de Metternich went onto the balcony with a glass of champagne in his hand, exclaiming, "To the health of the King of Rome! We are not yet good enough courtiers," remarked Regnault de Monsieur de Barant. At 7 o'clock, however, in the Salle de Spectacle of the Tuileries, the stage having been replaced by a decoration similar to the one at the other end of the hall, the imperial banquet was served. The emperor dined with his family, of whom only Joseph and Lucien were absent, seated upon a platform surmounted by a canopy. Members of the court were arranged in front of them in the orchestra boxes. The civic dignitaries occupied the second tier of boxes, and the apartments through which their Majesties passed on their way to the banquet. By 6 o'clock, the masters of ceremonies had marshaled the guests in the Salon de la Paix. The Grand Maréchal having announced everything ready, the cortege passed through the grand apartments to the banqueting hall. Grace was said by the grand almoners, and the band, which was placed in the top tier of boxes, discoursed topical music. Nothing could be more magnificent or more formal. The cortege returned to the Salle des Maréchaux, where their Majesties reappeared on the balcony. Afterwards, a cantata by Arnaud set to Mehul's music was given by the chorus from Gluck's Iphigenie. Every kind of music was heard outside the palace. A rocket sent up from the palace gave the signal for a display of fireworks over the whole of the Champs-Élysées, after which the cortege retired to the apartment of the Empress. At a signal from the Emperor, the dignitaries retired. Then the princes and princesses. The Emperor entered her boudoir. The Emperor went up to his own apartment to prepare for the night. Considering how many hours the Empress had been standing, she must have felt satiated with ceremonies, even had she liked them. It was thought, however, she might like to inspect the wedding presents, which had been placed in her private apartment. Possibly she might have preferred the fireworks. The Grand Allée of the Tuileries was one blaze of light, hung with thousands of colored lights. 13 triumphal arches were similarly illuminated. The decorations in the flower garden were less elaborate, but the approach to the Pont Tournant, the chestnut avenues, and the terraces were lit up with hanging lanterns. The Temple of Glory was outlined as it would appear when completed. The Temple of Hymen was simulated on the towers of Notre Dame, and on the Pantheon flared an antique tripod. At 2 o'clock in the Champs-Élysées, the most marvelous variety of entertainment began at the Carré de Jeu. There were 5 theaters, wrestlers of Herculean strength, dancers on the tightrope, Monsieur Olivier's spectacle, and the theater of picturesque and mechanical views, the theater of intangible shadows, 2 roundabouts, 2 switchbacks, 2 seesaws, 1 Egyptian bird, 2 greasy poles, 2 games of the dragon, 6 bands to dance to, an orchestral concert with 120 musicians, troops of singers engaged to sing the chanson du gouvernement, a troupe of Savoyards with their bagpipes. Besides these, Madame Furioso on the tightrope with itinerant musicians and a brass band. At the Carré Marigny, the same wrestlers, tightrope dancers, entertainments by Monsieur Prussian, Monsieur Lorenzo Federici, and Seraphine, besides Pyrrhic fires and Chinese shadows. At the Carré de la Pompe, chez Le Doyen. At the Carré de la Laiterie, there were as numerous, but at the Carré de l'Élysée, bands for quadrilles. and roundabouts predominated. Among all this variety, something new might be found here to interest each stranger. Of all these fleeting wonders, what has survived? In front of the facade of the court legislative, we may see the 6 statues that were unveiled on the occasion of the Empress' marriage, those of D'Aguesseau, Colbert, Hôpital, Sully, and last but not least, Themis and Minerva, which latter, amid the adornments of modern Paris, alone recalls the past. Next day, April 3rd, at 10 o'clock in the morning, the mounted heralds distributed the marriage medals, similar in size to the coronation medals, among the populace, 20,000 of which were silver, 500 gold. At the coronation, there have been 4 sizes. 1390 in gold, 74,450 in silver. The distribution had dwindled. Official of France was presented to the Emperor by the Grand Chamberlain and to the Empress by her lady-in-waiting. This presentation comprised ministers, cardinals, grand officers of the Empire, grand eagles, court of the audit office, council of the university, officers of the household of the princes and princesses, generals of division, court of appeals, archbishops, prefects, clergy of Paris, court of criminal justice, brigadier generals, bishops, authorities of Paris, city mayors. In fact, thousands of individuals came to pay homage, insomuch that Marie Louise wrote thus to her father: "Yesterday, more than 1,500 people were presented to me. I felt so ill at the time, owing to the diamond crown, which is so heavy I could barely take it. Consequently, I saw absolutely no one." Such was to be her lot. Chapter 4. Journey to St. Quentin, April 27th, June 1st, 1810. After devoting 3 days to Paris and St. Cloud, the Emperor set off again to Compiègne, where he held audiences, received congratulations and oaths of fidelity. Excursions, plays, hunting parties, concerts, receptions, and all kinds of functions took place. Although the receptions held in Paris were reckoned as representations, nevertheless, after Sunday, 15 men with the same number of women were daily to be presented to the Empress. From among those who had already been received, as well as those who had not yet been presented during the 24 hours of their visit to Compiègne, these persons would be duly accredited and would enjoy all prerogatives. Accordingly, 30 a day of these new people were to be received by the Empress in her gallery as she passed through to attend the play. The plays were usually performed by the Comédie Française, e.g. Le Cid, Phèdre, Andromaque, Britannicus, Le Misanthrope, Tartuffe, and also La Gaguerre, Imprévu, La Jeunesse de Henri V, Le Secret du Ménage, Le Projet de Mariage. The section of Britannicus appears injudicious, for how could so clever a man as the husband of Madame de Remusat have chosen to play entirely concerned with divorce, having a dialogue full of the grossest innuendos? At length this journey came to an end, having necessitated the presence of 67 persons, besides 15 ladies in the suite of the queens and princesses, to whom by a decree of April 19th the Emperor had granted prerogatives du voyage. Besides all those who came from Paris to be presented or do homage, the Emperor passed his days and nights with the Empress. Even the most urgent business could hardly separate him from her for a few moments. He would convene a council and arrive 2 hours after it had assembled. He almost suppressed private audiences. Everyone except Marie Louise wondered if this mode of living could continue. He treated her to his favorite habit of slapping. He would pinch her neck or her cheeks. If she showed annoyance, he took her in his arms, embraced her, and called her a gross pet, a big beast, on which term of endearment they made peace. Marie Louise, however, thought his manners a little vulgar. At the close of the visit to Compiègne on April 26th, their Majesties set out for Belgium. They were accompanied by a numerous suite, which was divided into 3 parties. One started 12 hours before their Majesties, one accompanied them, and one followed later. Seeing that the first comprised 12 coaches, 72 carriage horses, and 4 hacks, the second 10 coaches, 62 carriages, and 10 hacks, and the third 11 coaches, 65 carriages, carriages, horses, and 4 hacks, we may picture the commotion caused by such a procession and the general dislocation of traffic, which must have resulted. The military escort consisted of 200 mounted chasseurs, 200 Polish light horse, 80 mounted grenadiers, 30 picked gendarmes, 140 marines of the guard. Duroc arranged everything beforehand, even to the itinerary of the various stopping places. We shall see that the accommodation was frequently indifferent, causing the Empress to complain, but nothing better was available. The impression France made upon Marie Louise in the first journey is of fundamental importance. The Empress apparently was inclined to ridicule and could criticize people, at any rate those whom she disliked. Those she liked were very few. Consequently, with the exception of the Duchess de Montebello, scarcely anyone escaped her criticisms. But here is her own account of the journey.